You're teleported back in time to year 1821, in the same exact place as you're now, or ground level, not falling to death. What's going on around you? What would you do? Great, I turn up in a field, next to a mental asylum, in strange clothes, and not sounding correct to the local time period. I don't think I'm getting much a choice, unless I'm not seen. I've researched the history of my town quite a bit, and as far as I know, I'd be sitting in the middle of a sawmill right now. I would probably be in some woods, in the middle of Canada's largest wine region, near a big waterfall, before it became a wine region. Buy all the land I can. Well, I'm in a college dorm at a school that's been around since the 1700s, so nothing's changed except probably a little less electricity. A lot of tall grass waving in the breeze, some deer, a lot of buffalo grazing, maybe a small band of Native Americans passing through. Be terrified. A black woman, alone in the woods in 1821 Alabama. IDK. It will be weird to see everything in black and white though. Probably everyone around me would be a farmer or a coal miner, and I would be freezing my ass off in a field. So I guess my first move is to find a house with some people who can hopefully give me some appropriate clothes. Well, I'm in Sweden and it's full of forests and I can't speak much Swedish. I'd probably be ducked lol. I'd be in a temperate rainforest. 1821 would be the first time the locals have seen a white person in a while, and would either kill me when they saw me or treat me very well. I don't know much of the language, but probably enough to get by. I'd head east, which is handy as it's the way I'm facing anyway. Head to the water and find a village. I know enough about the customs to avoid offense hopefully. I then assimilate into the tribe and surprise Captain Cook by being white. In a swamp. The part of Phoenix I'm in wasn't developed at the time, so I'd probably hike to civilization and try to get the hell away before summer hits. I'm in Russia, with no skills in Russian. Absolutely nobody around. I'm in a forest and nobody will even colonize the state for another 25 years. Alright. So here I'm magically appearing in one of the servants' quarters of an early Victorian era magnate. Obelman's townhouse. Either that or I'm in the storage. Either way I have materialized in the top floor of a fairly rich guy's house and in a place that will be very inconvenient to simply slip right out of. However, this actually works to my advantage. The servants or perhaps even a man of the house sees me materialize out of thin air, which brings about some natural sense of wonder as to my appearance. There's no immediate judgment of me being a thief or danger to be thrown out. In the sudden mess I request a short audience with the owner or incumbent overseer of the house. I quickly tell them that I have been transposed here from some foreign place through means that I cannot explain, but do not know how to get back to my place of origin. Here I'm relying on a lot of luck as to who saw my materialization as to consider the veracity of this claim. But that I'm a strong, relatively tall young man who's not only literate but capable in mathematics and other learned skills, as I held a position of an esteemed adherence to an extremely significant office of my location. Not really. But a better backstory to explain my skills. Easier to go with a stance that I'm a real person of the period arrived by some small miracle rather than from almost an altogether different reality, and would be willing to offer my services for no more than a regular assistant's wages. Over time I slowly offer him tidbits of scientifical understandings that my mysterious origin allows me gaining his esteem and elevating me to the position of his right-hand man. I will then secure my position and aid him into some decent financial ventures that I know will be useful, and use these competences as leverage for them to help me craft my own place in high society. Once I have succeeded a degree of capital and a suitable housing, I embark on my quest as a serial investor, investing in all the most important technological developments of the 19th century. Do whatever I need to not be ducking enslaved. I'm in dairy farmland. This area has been inhabited since Neolithic times and was a source of flint and chalk. In 1821 there are some large country estate houses. A church from 1086, which is still here now, and another from the Middle Ages. There are approximately 197 people living here. What would I do? Probably walk to Tess Center of London and have a tot of gin. Maybe see a show and just generally wander about. I would most certainly suffocate and freeze/boil in the cold void of deep space, as the earth has definitely traveled millions of miles away since then. Well, duck. I'm near the Alamo, and although I'm Mexican, I look and act white. My very small hillside house would be about 50 years old at that point, so a strangely dressed man appearing would probably scare the owner shitless. The owner or owners would be working class individuals, almost certainly making a living through textiles. Perhaps in a nearby mill at that time, although perhaps still from home as part of a cottage industry. The ground level floor of the house would be earth and a small amount of livestock would be living down here. There is an open coal fire now, and there still would have been back then. There are and would have been a few other small houses next to mine. Beyond that, there will have been a few farms peppering the hillside. There also would have been a number of small, strange quirky chapels for the strange quirky hill folk. I live in the countryside and can't see too many man-made objects, but the view may have had more trees as opposed to fields. There would be a few pubs/inns within a half an hour walk down towards the village, which I think I'd need to visit after traveling back in time 200 years. To be honest, a lot of things would be pretty similar. Why are some Russian bitches trying to kill my nice whale? Edit. I live in Southwest Alaska. That's when the revolution began, so probably I would be fighting against some Turks. There's a farm on the edge of town called Intake Farm, between the road to the east and the Ratter course to the south. I'm sitting in the northernmost field, with Thorn Road north of me, the Ratter course south of me, and the Great North Road to my west. Cabbages, peas, cattle, tatters. None of these distances more than half a mile. The farmer's great-great-grandchildren now run a local greengrocers. Here's the farm. The railways and the canals arrived. The town expanded. Traffic on the Great North Road was bad, especially on race days. Edit. Racer course in use from about 1590. Council tried to close it down in 1600 due to traffic and crowd troubles. It's still going strong. So a parallel road was pushed through from Thorn Road to the Ratter House. The farmers were bought out, and most of the land was earmarked for the new intake housing estate, which eventually got built by the 1920s to give the town a green lung and space for recreation. Around 96 acres were reserved as a park. The town field. My house was the first to complete it on the new road, handed to the new owners in April 1901. So Victorian/Edwardian. Our garage is actually loose box, stable, and carriage house on the plans, with a hayloft and dovecote above. By the time later houses were built, the motor car and tram were the thing. So no more stables. What would I do? Might go to the pub. I could then. I can't now. I know the way, of course, as it opened in the 1780s as a coaching inn for travellers on the London-Edinburgh route. I'd pass my kids' school on the way. It's had several sites over the years, having opened first in 1350. If you want a peek at this stuff, the National Library of Scotland has an awesome collection of maps from all sorts of sources and periods. They set the IT nerds loose on them a few years back, and they've set them up so you can overlay, swipe on/off at top of page, and side-by-side maps to suit your inquiry. Try not to click the link if you have other stuff to do for the next few hours. I'm at the heart of the British Empire's trade, the bedrock of her economy, just reaching the peak of her power. Fresh from the Napoleonic Wars, the shoreline is a forest of masts, mostly of ships bound for New York, Dublin and Savannah, and also farther afield, to far-off ports in India, China and the Caribbean. The skyline is dominated by dockyards and great red, brick-built warehouses, stuffed to the gunwales with tea, tobacco, sugar and most of all, cotton. It brings the new merchant class great wealth, with which they build for themselves the townhouses of Princes Avenue, Faulkner Street and Canning Place, the new town hall and other civic edifices, and in a few years, the world's first railways, which will bring them even greater wealth. Lingering amongst the new, though, is the old, the distinctive windmill on Bidston Hill across the water, and the remnants of the bedrock of the city's wealth. Slavery. The slave gate still stands before the old dock, and though human chattel are no longer seen to be counted underneath it, the city's grandees will still profit from the backs of enslaved people for generations yet. Bale after bale arrives from Mississippi, Alabama and Louisiana, to be shipped up the canal to the mills that clothe most of the world. Adelaide, Australia. Knowing that South Australia was barely being surveyed by the British at that point, I'd be surrounded by bushland and probably killed by the indigenous people or die of starvation/dehydration. I'm in thick woods. That gives me a good head start against the hounds. I'm not a bear, but I'm definitely shitting in the woods. The major city I live in, Chicago, is a town near Fort Sheridan. My condo building on the shoreline of Lake Michigan is in Potawatomi territory. If I learned anything in grade school computer class, I die of dysentery. Panic. Die. California was still owned by Mexico or Spain, I think. So no settlements around where I live until around the late 1860s, I think. That's after Cali became the 31st state of the Union in 1850. Edit. Added last sentence. 1821 means I'm in Britain wishing I had prep time, so I could have brought forward some instruction guides on some inventions. But how do we make these aeroplanes? I don't know. I suppose I could at least describe things to people far more intelligent and watch them have a crack at it. Kansas was a slave state, right? I think I would try to make my way to Nebraska and hope the Indians can take me in and train me. Otherwise I'd be pretty ducked. If I could get to Louisiana out where my family was going to soon live, then I think I would be okay. But shit, I don't see that happening. Yeah, I'd be ducked. I don't know, but probably kill my Cabell's ancestors. I'm a nation male, living in Virginia, on the outskirts of Richmond. So I'll probably be running north, like very north. I also am going to totally try to die during Harper's Ferry helping old John Brown. Fun fact. John Brown was not only an abolitionist, he was also not racist. It's 1821. I'm in Santiago, Chile. The country has been independent effectively for a bit over 2 years. After a bloody war. Actually, war is still going on in the far south. After the teleportation shock, I find myself in what appears to be a gigantic park. It's actually just one property, so I have to get out. I didn't have shoes on in the moment of the teleportation, and it's very cold and dark. There is no electric light, not even proper gas light. The city actually starts about 100 meters to the north of me. There is still a few people around. I grab a homeless kid and ask him what year is it. 1821 of the Lord. He replies, confused. God ducking, damn it. The Reddit post. I don't care if I look weird. I have no contacts or refuge for the night. But at least I'm in a somewhat civilized place. I'm 20. And I've been safely sheltered my entire life. I probably look like a beggar, with shorts and a plain shirt. For now, my main concern is survival. There's no police, just a military rule. I'd probably seek shelter in one of the many churches of this small city. I'm not Catholic, but maybe if I try hard enough I can remember 1 or 2 prayers. Probably. Since I'm too old to be a proper orphan, I would have to gain my right to food working my ass off. From there on, my concern should be living a quiet life. To not change history and duck everyone else in the future. Geez. The stress. I like history. So I know for a fact that lots of turmoil and hard times are ahead. But maybe if I'm lucky I won't be forcefully drafted. After all, I can read and write. That puts me in at 10% of the population or so. Damn you. Now I want to write a book. I might be in a river. Well, the city I live in wasn't founded then, so I'm in the middle of the Australian bush, quite a long way from the nearest settlement. Not White Suhide or Geota, Canada. We'd be at the tail end of finally gaining independence from Spain. I live in Los Angeles. Seems like everyone would end up in the middle of nowhere. Given the fact that I'm in London right now, I'd say I'm luckier than those who end up in a swamp lol. IDK. Try to find a way to get teleported to the present. In the meantime, I would be on the lookout for unfriendly people, particularly settlers who believe that brown skin equals savage. Fun fact. Spain agreed to let Florida become a part of the US in 1821, thanks to the Adams-Honest Treaty. I'm in jail. Damn it. And it's going to be about another 20 years before they tear it down. Can somebody send me a cake with some coffee? I would be in Mexico all of a sudden. Probably in a heavily wooded area. Probably in a frozen tundra. Not much going on in Alaska in 1821 as far as I'm aware. In a swamp filled with cobras and pit VIPs. My house is a suspended beam construction which is literally built on a swamp. 200 years ago this place, 40 kilometers from the center of Bangkok, would have been primal tropical jungle. Oh duck. In the middle of a swamp. Have to deal with the crushing effect of King Shaka's conquests. A bunch of pissed off Dutch settlers are trekking north because of major Brit movement. I'm sitting on top of the most prominent gold deposit in the world. Oh. Did I mention that no one from my race has ever come to this part of the world yet? Yippee. I get to be the alien. Thank you for watching. Like, share and check out other videos.